something I really want to talk about because we all came up kind of around the same era. Again, I'm saying that this time there was no pun intended. We all came
I have to live with this, okay? It's fine.
Welcome back to another episode of Last Words right here on The Pit. This week, we're going to get into it and talk about the big question. Did streaming kill the radio star?
And we got JT from ERRA here today. What's up, JT?
I'm doing just fine.
We're back like the old days, Katie. Just me and you, docs away. We generally are a little bit more on top, but as you can see by my 13-year-old drawing right there, look at that. That's a masterpiece. I'm hiding away at my mother's house right now, so forgive me if you're getting a little glimpse of Xena at 13 years old.
Yeah, but when you visit, you can get all the nostalgia that you missed out.
Yeah, including this lovely mic, right?
Yeah.
Would love to hear a bit more about your band, JT. ERRA. You guys are played on the radio, apparently.
Apparently. I haven't heard
Tell us a little bit more about the band, how it came together, and where you're at right now, especially during COVID. A radio band. That means that you guys must have toured. Remember that?
So to recap, the last year, we tracked our most recent record that came out on March 26th. No, it came out on the 19th. I actually don't remember when it came out. I think it was the 19th. We tracked that in March, right before the pandemic. So we actually, the last day we were in the studio, the global pandemic hit the next day.
Right now, I think because of obviously no concerts and stuff, we're seeing streaming now really take a big rise. And you guys,
I just got off my Twitch chat.
Right, that's right. You're doing Twitch, you do YouTube. You guys are big on Spotify. You just cracked the Spotify top 10. So how has that been? Has that changed at all for you now in this new era, pun intended, versus, obviously prior to that?
Well, trying to navigate the business landscape of being in a band, as well as the actual methods of getting your content out to people I don't know if it's changed, but it's shifted. Normally when you release a record, you try to tour off of it right away so you can see the physical reaction and then actually do the other half of your job. But since we haven't been able to do that, I've been trying to come up with other ways to stay connected and stay involved. Landed with Twitch. I feel like I'm not too good at the whole streaming thing, but I've come to actually really enjoy it. It's community building. I got on there with the wrong intentions of just trying to be a gamer, because that's why I watch it. But with the musician stuff, people just want to hang out. They want to build a community with you. They want to get personal with you, and that seemed to be the best route, at least for me and the people that come to watch me. They just want to goof off and talk about ERRA and talk about music and kind of pick your brain. It's actually pretty fun. I'm a goofy guy, so it allows me to be goofy, and it's cool that I can be supported by being a weirdo.
Well, it's like that flattened plane of communication, right? More than just being a proficient musician or putting out good songs or even writing good song or performing them. People want to know who you are as a person now.
Yeah.
And there's really no divorce from any of those things, good and bad, right? Because sometimes you're you want to retreat and be away.
My business is out there, dude.
You're just airing it out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you discovered music, right? I don't know how old you are, but if you're old like me.
I'm 31.
Okay.
You're the same age as me, which is, something I really want to talk about because we all came up kind of around the same era. Again, I'm saying that this time there was no pun intended. We all
I have to live with this, okay? It's fine.
This actually now is becoming a challenge because the first time it was cute. Now it's annoying that I'm doing it.
Fine.
But, we all grew up around the same time where we actually were here during the shift. First, everything was very physical. I mean, as a kid, I still had cassettes and then eventually CDs. And then eventually we were burning CDs because there were streaming services out there like Napster, obviously being on the forefront. And then later on, LimeWire and Morpheus. You remember all of
Bear
these?
Share. Because I know I'm old.
And then there was kind of a divide, and then eventually transition to streaming. Where would you say that kind of started for you?
I remember getting the 311 self-titled CD when I was 8 years old and playing that through the family stereo. Borrowed my parents' Sony Walkman, the yellow one, for cassettes. I actually pride myself in being an owner of several mini disc players. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I had
big
so
mini
many
disc
of
guy.
those.
I actually love and miss that format because there's something cool and physical about it, but there was so much more storage than a traditional CD. Well, I guess MP3 CDs are about the same, but way easier to use than a cassette. And That was before like large MP3 players came out. So that was a really fun, interesting, like middle of the ground physical media that came out around then. When streaming came out, for me, I felt like streaming existed just to combat piracy. I feel like that definitely worked, but at the same time, the shift of how you get music, I don't buy physical media also, so like I can't really say much there. Like I love the convenience of paying for a subscription to listen to music because I like a lot of music. But as a musician, damn, you know, there was a lot of money coming from physical sales back then. It also was a good metric to see how many people like enjoyed your band. So now, like even still within the past time period, they've changed how like SoundScan works and how counting like plays and records work. So you have to adapt. Like you have to keep up with the times, or you're just going to be left in the dust.
Another thing too, and another aspect about this convenience of it is, again, growing up in the late 90s and early aughts and, you know, becoming like a real music fan then and going to the record store, you had to physically leave your house, and to discover music required a lot of effort. You had to purvey the magazine racks and pick up a physical magazine. It was different now than where you could just go online and just Google, you know, Maynard and then just see what Tool is up to. You had to actually,
that's my guy,
physically find out concerts. You had to actually go to Ticketmaster and see what was coming up. And now we have this convenience. And do you find that that's, you know, while there's some things that might have hurt your band on the financial aspect, do you feel maybe now these new convenient ways of people listening have helped you?
I think here's the thing with convenience. Convenience is I want to hear my band or hear the band I want to hear, not necessarily ERRA. This is like from a fan's perspective. I don't have to leave my house. I can go watch their live shows on YouTube. I can watch a live stream, even if it's like not in COVID. The accessibility of content with technology is awesome, but that also removes the almost like special nature of, remember the underground scene when like there was no YouTube and you had to go to local shows and you could only see that local band play if you went to that VFW and watched the floor show and hung out with them, and you might text them on a T9 phone. There was no profiles. There was no, I mean, Pure Volume was like just starting. So discovery of music digitally was like pretty rare. So it made that time period, it was like more precious and less over. It might have been oversaturated, but the community reach was so small because technology wasn't just pushing it everywhere. It was pushing it to your region. You didn't have I don't see tour posters like on like telephone poles in towns anymore. I don't see billboards with like venue advertisements. It's all ads, you know. It's all blast emails and Instagram, you know, paid ads and whatnot. The landscape's just so different now.
Do you feel it's leading to the death of a scene in general?
Thankfully, it's all perspective. If they don't know it existed, they're not missing out on it. Like, you know, like we had this whole generation that never got to see Rugrats and Angry Beavers, but we have that in our memory and we get to hold that and we could re-show it to them, but it wouldn't be the same for them. So for the newer generations and or just people that are new to this like environment, they know what they see and what's supplied to them. While I do miss a lot of the old nostalgic stuff and the old sentimental things about how music was like digested back then and those like times, again, you just got to keep up, and there's ways to find pleasantries in like the new format. If you feel like there's something missing, that's the cool thing. Like you can always make something from the old idea of modern in the new age at the same time.
We mentioned Tool before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember listening to Tool on, you know, terrestrial radio, honestly, and it being pop music almost, right? Like in the 90s, in the late 90s in my time. And now I feel like active rock radio coming, you know, both me and Katie worked in the radio world, is very specific, or it's satellite right now, right? Mm-hmm. It has a very specific audience. Do you feel like songs are still breaking through that, or do they have a little bit more power in like, you know, being across all the social media platforms or like any of the streaming platforms?
That's the thing. I don't listen to radio, so I don't really know.
Oh, okay then.
Even better.
I haven't listened to radio in 10 years.
Now tell us why, because this I think could open up a broader discussion here, because I feel the same way, where I've listened to, and what kind of radio too, because some things can be considered radio, Spotify radio.
No, I'm blown away.
It's not that I don't like radio. I'm picky. And I feel like radio is supposed to showcase a lot of stuff, but I want to listen to. That's why I like streaming, honestly, is because I can make a playlist I want, and once it learns what I like, it can make an algorithm, and algorithms work really well. Like the daily mixes that they give me on Spotify are like, they're good.
But what do you think, Zena? Do you think radio killed streaming or streaming killed radio, or do you maybe think they're just not even related?
I don't really know if they're totally related because they're just different mediums, right? Like even Sirius XM was a completely different medium than like regular terrestrial radio, right? It was supposed to be this premium option at the time when it was like Heart Attack and then kind of going into like liquid metal, and it offered more than regular terrestrial radio could give you. But then after a while, it just started becoming terrestrial radio more too. So it's kind of interesting to see how those things just, you know, to JT's point, didn't really give you options, right? And didn't really tailor your listening kind of like priorities towards your ear. The other thing about it too is like the straight up death of the expert, right? Like you used to have somebody tell you what's good. Now you can just find out, right? It's with a click of a button, you can be like, I like that. I don't like that. Or if you get a tailored choice, like some kind of, you know, whether it's the algorithm, like I'll constantly get things that turn me on to new bands because I'm like, wow, this is so good. It is really kind of a reduction of that need of a personality to tell you, more like using AI.
That is a great point, actually.
What's really cool about it too is that like you see even old school terrestrial radio, like iHeartRadio and some of those utilities starting to like move towards that kind of method anyway. Like there's been a bunch of reduction of like old school DJs on there. And I mean, half the time they're always getting in trouble anyway for saying something totally off color.
Actually, I should have brought this up. This is the one thing that radio have that streaming will never have is a good host. Like there's definitely so many good speakers and personalities out there. There's one guy from the area that I grew up in it was Elliot in the Morning on DC's 101. And that was one radio station that I actually do miss because he was hilarious and he would break up his music stuff for calls. And, you know, I don't know any services where I listen to music that supply something like a host like that. So partly like the things that's missed in radio is not just the music, but a good host telling you about local stuff in your area, local news and just like gossip, and this having that person and personality to connect with on top of the radio station that plays the music you like is something Spotify has yet to offer at all. And I don't know if they ever will. I don't think that's their thing. So that was a very good point you made.
But that's why you got to listen to podcasts like this one.
I do like podcasts a lot.
Well, thank you so much, JT, for joining us today. This has been awesome. And your new album is out now. The band is called ERRA, ERRA. And what's the name of the new record? And where can people find it? And where can people find you on your Twitch channels and stuff? And also, where can they find the band? Tell us all of the places where we can stalk you.
What's sick is if you can remember the band name, you can remember the album. It is our first self-titled, probably the last self-titled record. I don't know any bands that have self-titled twice.
St. Vitus, but anyway, go on.
Oh, wow. Self-titled release. You can find it through UNFD. You can find me on all my socials are at JTCavey, Cavey. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Instagram, theerraband.com, ERRABand on Instagram. We'll be excited to come back and play for you guys and support all streaming services and radio stations because they're both great.
Zena, what about you? Where can everyone check you out?
You can find me at Zena Dakota. What about you, Katie?
And you can find me at Merciful Kate across Twitter and Instagram. If you want to hear the full uncensored version with all the bad words and all of the nonsense we talk, you can tune in to our podcast across all streaming channels.